Charles Edward Anderson, born 1919, died 1994. African-American meteorologist. Charles Edward Anderson was the first African-American to receive a PhD in meteorology, and he became the first African-American professor to receive tenure at the University of Wisconsin. He was a nationally known expert on severe storms and tornadoes and held important positions in the government and academia. Anderson was born in University City, Missouri, near St. Louis, on August 13, 1919. The name of his birthplace was prophetic. He would spend much of the rest of his life associated with one university or another as a student or professor. In 1937, he graduated first in his class from Sumner High School. 4 years later, in 1941, he received his Bachelor of Science from Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri, where over 50 years later, he was laid to rest in his family burial plot. In 1943, he received a certification in meteorology equivalent to a master's degree from the University of Chicago. In 1943, he also married Marjorie Anderson, who was from Cary, North Carolina. They were to have two daughters, Cheryl and Linda. During World War II, Anderson was commissioned an officer in the United States Army Air Forces and served as a captain. He was the weather officer for the famous regiment of Black Air Force pilots, the Tuskegee Airmen, based in Tuskegee, Alabama. In 1948, Anderson followed his certification in meteorology from the University of Chicago with a Master of Science in Chemistry from the Polytechnic Institute of Brooklyn. He then moved up the coast to Boston, Massachusetts, where he was the head of the cloud physics branch of the Air Force's Research Center in Cambridge until 1961. In 1960, Anderson earned his PhD in meteorology from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. His doctoral dissertation, which was published immediately after he finished it, a considerable honor, was titled A Study of the Pulsating Growth of Cumulus Clouds. In 1961, Anderson left the Air Force Research Center for the Atmospheric Science branch of the Douglas Aircraft Company in California. In 1965, he began work for the U.S. Department of Commerce as the Director of the Office of Federal Coordination and Meteorology in the Environmental Science Service Administration. Beginning in 1966 and continuing for over 20 years, Anderson held several important positions at the University of Wisconsin. He was a professor of space science and engineering, a professor of meteorology, chairman of the Contemporary Trends course, chairman of the Afro-American Studies Department, chairman of the Meteorology Department, and ultimately, in 1978, associate dean of the university. In 1987, Dr. Anderson and his family moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, where he was a professor in the Department of Marine, Earth, and Atmospheric Sciences at North Carolina State University. He retired in 1990 and died of cancer at the age of 75 in Durham, North Carolina on October 21st, 1994. Sources and citations of this audio are in the description.